Hi everybody, this is IELTS Breakthrough, and this video is all about micro skill number 1, that is describing trends. It's part of a series of videos that I've made about the essential micro skills that you need to master if you're going to write a strong answer for the task 1 writing question of academic version of IELTS. So, if you are going to take the academic version of IELTS any time of this year, then this video is going to be absolutely essential and valuable watching for you. Keep watching. I'm going to tell you about the 2 key steps that you need to take in order to master trend sentences. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for clicking on this video. IELTS Breakthrough is a channel that helps you get a higher score in IELTS so that you can study at an international university and progress in your career. My name's David and I am your IELTS Breakthrough coach. Alright then, let's talk about describing trends. This is a very important micro skill. Whether you have a bar chart, a line graph, a pie chart, or tables, or a combination of these, you're very likely to have to describe a trend. By describing trends, I'm talking about writing about the data that is going up and data that is going down. As I said at the start of this video, there are 2 steps that you need to take. The first step is to make sure that you have lots of interesting vocabulary that you can use for describing trends. And then step number 2 is to know how to use that vocabulary in trend sentences. Let's start with step number 1, the key vocabulary. The good news is that there is a whole set of interesting vocabulary that you can learn specifically for describing trends. Here are a few examples of the key vocabulary, but I will put a link in the description where you can download a lot more. I'm talking about words like rocket, surge, explode. Or if we're describing a trend down, I'm talking about words like ebb, plummet, plunge. In addition to verbs going up, going down, there's a few others like remain stable, remain steady, and a good old friend, fluctuate. As well as the words that describe something going up and going down, it's useful to have vocabulary that describes whether the trend is a big one or a small one. Here are a few examples for you. Steady, constant, dramatic, substantial, conspicuous, and so on. Once again, just to remind you, click the link to practice and learn a whole list of interesting vocabulary for trends. And make sure that you do spend a bit of time learning this vocabulary. It's an easy way to show the examiner that you have flexibility rather than just using the boring stuff like go up, go down, increase and decrease. There's a lot more interesting vocabulary that you can use. If you learn it, you can use it. Okay, now once you've learned that vocabulary, the next step is to put it into a sentence structure. Now, there are 2 different sentence structures that you need to master. Sentence structure number 1 is where you use the trend word as a verb and an adverb where you want to describe the size. Sentence structure number 2 is where you use the trend word as a noun and then the size of the trend is used as an adjective. Let me show you an example to make this clear. Since this is a YouTube video, I've used an example of a trend related to YouTube subscribers. The example for sentence structure number 1 goes like this. The number of YouTube subscribers to cooking channels rose noticeably from 1.1 million to 2.3 million between May and June. As a side note, just to tell you that this data is not real, okay? I just made the data up as an example to help you understand trend sentences. Now, let's break this trend sentence down. There are 4 components of a trend sentence. The first component is the variable. And the variable is the phrase that describes the category that you are writing about. The category might be a line or column if it is a table, or in a line chart it's going to be one specific line that you are writing about. In this example, the variable is the number of YouTube subscribers to cooking channels. Now, the second component is your trend word. This is sentence structure number 1, and the trend word is a verb. So it is rose noticeably here. Notice that your verb here is in the past simple tense. Consider the past simple as your default tense. It is the most likely tense you will use in trend sentences. That's because most of the data that we describe will be from information in the past. So generally, the rule of thumb is to use the past simple tense rather than anything else. And then component number 3 is the data. Here we have from 1.1 million to 2.3 million subscribers. And then lastly, component number 4 is the time phrase. In this example, it is from May to June. Note that the time phrase can also be put at the start of your trend sentence. So you can also write, from May to June, the number of YouTube subscribers to cooking channels rose noticeably from 1.1 million to 2.3 million. So they are the 4 components: variable, trend, data, and time. For a good trend sentence, you need to record all of these components. Okay, that's sentence structure number 1. Let's look at sentence structure number 2. And this structure is where we use the trend word as a noun and an adjective. So the grammar is a little bit different. For this sentence, the starting point is to say there was. And then we have the trend word. Now, because the trend word is used as a noun, we need an article, a or an. So it becomes there was an increase, there was a drop, there was a fall, there was a fluctuation, and so on. After the trend word used as a noun, you need the preposition in. So it will be there was a rise in, there was a fall in, there was an increase in. Let's go back to the example to see how this sentence structure works. There was a noticeable rise in the number of YouTube subscribers to cooking channels from 1.1 million to 2.3 million between May and June. If you look at this sentence structure, you can see we still have the 4 components of the trend word first as a noun, And then after in, we have the variable, followed by the data, and then the time at the end. Note that, of course, with the time phrase, you can put it at the start of the sentence as well as at the end. It's quite possible to write something like this. Between May and June, there was a noticeable rise in the number of YouTube subscribers to cooking channels from 1.1 million to 2.3 million. And one other point of detail to note is that you should use a comma before you give the data point in sentence structure number 2, as well as a comma at the end of this data point. So that is how to write trend sentences, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the 2 stages. First stage is to collect a load of interesting vocabulary to describe trends and make sure that you learn these words carefully. It's going to be very boring if you just write go up, go down, increase, decrease. That's not going to help your score. However, when you use words like ebb, explode, plunge, then you're giving your writing just a little bit more quality. That will help you to push into the band 7, band 8 area for scoring. Once you have learned the vocabulary, you need to be able to write trend sentences almost without thinking. And you need to master sentence structure number 1 and sentence structure number 2. That's because if you only use one sentence structure, it's going to be a bit boring for the reader. Plus, there are times when you need to use the trend word as a noun, and then other times when you need to use the trend word as a verb. So you need to have that flexibility to write the sentences well. This means that practice is really important. Here are a few tips to practice writing trend sentences. The first tip is simply to copy out some trend sentences. And in fact, again, I'll put a link in the description where I've got a worksheet for you where you can practice these trend sentences. The first exercise is to simply copy out some sample trend sentences so that you become a lot more familiar with how both of these sentence structures work. And then the next practice exercise you can do is to do some error analysis. That is, just look at some example trend sentences, analyze the way the grammar structure works, and decide if they are right or wrong. And then finally, practice number 3 is to write out some trend sentences for yourself. To do this, again, if you download the worksheet, I've got some prompts that you can practice with where you have the basic information and you need to write out the full trend sentence. Or if you have any task 1 charts, you can practice writing it out from an original task 1 question. So that is micro skill number 1. Please make sure that you do a bit of work with this micro skill because it really will help you when it comes to the real test and you are faced with a chart that you must describe in writing. As always, if you have any comments, please let me know in the comments section. It would be really great to hear from you if you have any questions. Is there anything else you want to learn about task 1 and writing trends? Let me know down below. Meanwhile, check out the other videos on the micro skill number 2 and micro skill number 3 because they are also important. In the meantime, have a fantastic week, day, morning, afternoon, whatever you are doing. I'll see you in the next video.